Rhea Ripley once helped turn Judgment Day into one of WWE's most dominant factions. But after a shocking betrayal from the people she trusted most, something changed. Now Rhea is making it clear she's done looking back, and her latest comments have fans convinced she's finished with Judgment Day for good. It was the opening match of SummerSlam 2024. The event got underway in Cleveland, Ohio, with Rhea Ripley taking on Liv Morgan. Ripley had been gone for months. She came back for one thing, her title, and she walked into that arena with her on-screen boyfriend, Dirty Dominic Mysterio, right by her side. Everything looked fine. Judgment Day was intact. Mommy was home. Then Dom grabbed the chair. When Rhea was about to swing a chair at Liv, Dom grabbed it and stopped her under the guise of saying she couldn't win the title that way. Then he went around the other side of the ring to distract the referee after tossing the chair back in. And Liv Morgan was able to hit a second Oblivion finisher on Rhea Ripley to retain her title. The Judgment Day faction fractured at SummerSlam after Dominic Mysterio betrayed Rhea Ripley and Finn Balor cost Damian Priest his match against Gunther. Two betrayals, one night, both on the same team. The following Raw, it was revealed that both Priest and Ripley had been kicked out of Judgment Day, with a new-look group forming around Balor, JD McDonough, Mysterio, Carlito, and Morgan. That was it. No conversation, no warning, just gone. Ripley had poured years into that group. She was the one who made it must-see TV every single week. She was the one who carried championship gold while the whole stable ran Raw like a private kingdom. And in a single night, Dominic kissed another woman. Finn turned his back on Priest, and the people she called family made it plain. She was no longer part of the plan. Reports from WRKD Wrestling revealed that members of Judgment Day were sentimental and emotional backstage at SummerSlam, just before their factions split unfolded that night. So even inside the locker room, people knew what was coming. The era was ending, and everybody felt it. Ripley had only just returned to WWE following an injury when she was betrayed by Dominic Mysterio. She hadn't even fully healed. She came back early, pushed through months of rehab, and the reward waiting for her on the other side was a public humiliation in front of the biggest SummerSlam crowd in years. Rhea walked into Cleveland Browns Stadium with confidence and walked out with a loss and a broken heart. The fans watching at home were stunned. The crowd in Cleveland erupted in the kind of noise that only happens when something genuinely unexpected lands. And at the center of all of it was Rhea Ripley, standing alone in that ring, staring at Dominic's back as he walked away with Liv Morgan, and the title she'd bled for over the past 14 months disappearing with them. Ripley later revealed that she was very emotional upon leaving Judgment Day and cried on the night of their breakup. She didn't hide it. She owned it completely. And then, just like that, the woman who'd called that stable home for over 2 years picked herself up and started building something new. Not with apologies. Not with explanations. With a partner. The only one who had her back. And a promise that she was coming for all of them. Since the betrayal, the Terror Twins had been on the warpath, looking for revenge against the group at every turn. To understand what Ripley lost at SummerSlam, you have to go back to where it began, because this wasn't just a faction she joined. Judgment Day was really family to her. The stable was established at WrestleMania 38 in April 2022 by Edge, who recruited Damian Priest and later Rhea Ripley. At first, this was Edge's project, his dark resurrection, his attempt to build a villainous empire on Raw. Ripley came in as the muscle, a masked enforcer who revealed herself at WrestleMania Backlash, shocking everyone watching. But Edge's version of the group didn't last long. 2 months later, following Finn Balor's addition to the group, Edge was kicked out, and a no-leadership ideology was implemented. What replaced it was something looser, more dangerous, and far more entertaining. 4 people operating without a clear chain of command: Priest, Ripley, Balor, and eventually Dominic Mysterio, who was prepared to betray his own father to join the group. The group grew in stature when Ripley captured championship gold at WrestleMania 39. She pinned Charlotte Flair in the kind of match that changes a career's trajectory. Not just a title win, a statement. The Queen was dethroned, and the Eradicator from Perth, Australia, now stood at the top of the women's division with the entire Judgment Day machine behind her. Over the next year, Ripley ruled that title scene. During the 2023 WWE Draft, she was officially moved to Raw while still holding the SmackDown Women's Championship, then turned back challengers such as Zelina Vega at Backlash in Puerto Rico and Natalya at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. She defended everywhere, against everyone. She kept stacking up title defenses against Raquel Rodriguez, Nia Jax, Zoe Stark, Shayna Baszler, and others, across events like Payback, Crown Jewel, and Survivor Series. And through all of it, Judgment Day was flourishing alongside her. Priest had gold, Balor had gold. Dominic was picking up championships on NXT. With Balor and Priest's tag title victory, Balor became the 24th Grand Slam champion, and Judgment Day became the second faction after the Bloodline to hold titles across all three brands. That's where they were. Multi-brand champions, a faction that was running Raw, and Ripley was the engine behind all of it. The most dominant women's champion on the roster, and the gravitational center that made the whole group feel credible. When Ripley was asked what being part of Judgment Day meant for her, she revealed that it helped her feel fully comfortable in front of crowds because she had people to fall back on. After years of building her confidence in NXT UK and NXT, she'd finally found her footing. The crowd connection was real, the character was locked in, Mommy was born. Then, Liv Morgan turned up and started pulling at every thread. On night 1 of WrestleMania XL on April 6, Ripley defeated Becky Lynch to retain the title. Then, on the April 8 episode of Raw, Ripley was attacked in a backstage segment by Liv Morgan, during which Ripley legitimately injured her right arm and was forced to vacate the championship the following week, ending her reign at 380 days, tying Bayley's record as the longest reigning women's world champion. The timing was ruthless. Ripley had just successfully defended against Becky Lynch at the biggest event of the year. She was at the peak of her run, and within 48 hours, everything unraveled on a random Monday night backstage. It is believed that Ripley's shoulder collided with the wall, resulting in the injury. On the next episode of Raw, Ripley opened the show appearing in a sling and addressed the attack by revealing her injury. She was told she would be out of action for quite a few months as she placed her title on the mat of the ring. She put the title down and she walked away. That visual, the Women's World Championship sitting on the ring mat while its holder stood there in a sling, told the whole story. This wasn't a loss. This wasn't a defeat. This was something taken from her. While she recovered, Morgan targeted Dominic Mysterio and Judgment Day on television, taunting Ripley in her absence, and turning their story into one built on jealousy, revenge, and blurred loyalties. Dominic was right there, every week, while the woman he was aligned with was stuck in rehab watching from home. She didn't go after the stable with aggression. She went after it with proximity, week after week, closer and closer to Dominic. Dominic seemingly accidentally helped Morgan win the Women's World Championship from Becky Lynch at King and Queen of the Ring, and seemingly accidentally helped her retain in a steel cage match 2 nights later on Raw. Accidentally twice. Nobody believed it the first time. The second time made it obvious. The group had a cancer growing inside it, and everyone could see it, except the people who needed to see it most. On the July 8 episode of Raw, after Dominic teamed with Morgan to defeat Rey Mysterio and Zelina Vega, he was about to kiss Morgan when he was confronted by the returning Ripley. She came back. She saw enough, and she still forgave him. Or at least that's how it appeared on television. Ripley rolled back into Judgment Day's orbit, took her place at Dominic's side again, and got her title shot at SummerSlam. We already know what happened next. What the injury period had done was hollowed the group out before the explosion even came. The Judgment Day was on top after WrestleMania 40, with Ripley as Women's World Champion and Damian Priest as World Heavyweight Champion. However, this was very short-lived. The peak was impossibly brief, and the fall was designed specifically to hurt. Morgan didn't just take the title, she took the stable, the boyfriend, and the momentum. all in one extended play. And by the time Ripley walked into SummerSlam, the damage was already done. She just didn't know it yet. During Priest's match against McDonough on the Raw after SummerSlam, he was ambushed by Balor and the rest of Judgment Day until Ripley came out to save him. Priest and Ripley would afterwards embrace each other, staying together as a team and going by their unofficial tag team name, the Terror Twins. Two people against a faction. That framing could have felt desperate. Instead, it felt like the beginning of something the audience had been wanting without knowing it. Ripley, untethered from the villain structure, finally fighting from the heart instead of the ego. She was angry, she was hurt, and she had somewhere to point all of it. Ripley and Priest took on every combination Judgment Day threw at them. Individual matches, tag matches, mixed encounters, it didn't matter. The Terror Twins were on a mission that had nothing to do with titles at that stage. It was about damage. At Bash in Berlin, Ripley and Priest defeated Mysterio and Morgan despite interference from Judgment Day, with Ripley pinning Morgan. That pin mattered. Not just for the scoreboard, for the story. Ripley getting her hands on Morgan in a sanctioned match, and winning was the first proper piece of the revenge puzzle clicking into place. In one interview, she was direct about where she stood. She said, "I loved my time with the Judgment Day. Now, I'm loving my time absolutely brutalizing the Judgment Day. They are not the real Judgment Day. They are street trash." There it was, no room for sentiment in the present tense. The love she had for the original group, the version she helped build from 2022 onwards, was completely separated in her mind from what it had become. The name was the same. The people wearing it were not. Ripley said directly, "Judgment Day died when Damian and I got turned on. They died. When we got kicked out, they died." And then she got her title back. Ripley joined Priest as Judgment Day outcasts and formed the Terror Twins, ultimately getting their vengeance on Mysterio, Morgan, Balor, McDonough, and Carlito, as she regained the Women's World title on the Raw on Netflix premiere. That night, the first Raw on Netflix, the new era of WWE, on a new platform with the eyes of the world watching. Rhea Ripley stood in that ring with the Women's World Championship back around her waist. The people who took it from her had been beaten. The war was over. And the woman who'd cried backstage at SummerSlam was now the one holding the belt on the most watched Raw episode in years. The Judgment Day hadn't been winning as much without Ripley in the ranks. The WWE Raw stable was still one of the most popular groups in all of pro wrestling. However, that popularity didn't exactly translate to success in 2025, and Ripley knew exactly why. When asked what she thought made Judgment Day continue to resonate with fans, Ripley said she thought it came down to the WWE universe wanting to see them get their comeuppance. "I think people just like watching them get their asses beat, to be completely honest," Ripley told WrestleZone. No mercy, not even for the name she used to wear. Winning the title back on that Netflix premiere was not the end of the story. If anything, it was the start of the next chapter. One where Ripley had to figure out who she was without the faction that defined her for 2 years. Ripley has firmly defended her inclusion in the WrestleMania 41 Women's World Championship match, dismissing online criticism. The criticism stemmed from the way she was added to the women's title match with Io Sky and Bianca Belair, after surprising losing the Women's World Championship to Sky on a March episode of Monday Night Raw. Ripley took matters into her own hands. She interrupted the contract signing between Sky and Belair, physically asserting herself by slamming Belair onto Sky and adding her name to the contract. That's who she'd become, not someone waiting to be included. Someone who inserts herself because she knows the value she carries. On Raw, Ripley was one of the stars introduced by General Manager Adam Pearce, who made a significant error while introducing her instead of simply calling her to the ring. He introduced Ripley as representing the Judgment Day, accidentally adding her back to the faction. Her response was immediate. The star said that Pearce needed a nap. Ripley said that while she appreciated getting added to the WrestleMania match, that was all he got right in that segment. She was clearly no longer a part of Judgment Day and did not miss the chance to say so. Not even in error. The name was no longer hers to carry. The group she left behind kept running, but without the gravitational weight of Mommy. The results told the story. Last year, Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor, Raquel Rodriguez, and Roxanne Perez were 4 of the top 5 wrestlers with the most losses on the roster. The most losing faction in WWE. The group that once held gold across all 3 brands, crumbling week after week in public. Meanwhile, Ripley kept building. At Survivor Series War Games, Ripley, along with Sky, Alexa Bliss, AJ Lee, and Charlotte Flair defeated Asuka, Sani, Nia Jax, Lash Legend, and Becky Lynch in a War Games match. New alliances, new chapters. The Eradicator finding new ways to stay relevant and dangerous without needing a faction to validate her. On the January 5, 2026 episode of Raw, Ripley and Sky defeated the Kabuki Warriors to win the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. At Saturday night's main event, Ripley and Sky defeated the Judgment Day, Morgan and Roxanne Perez, to retain the titles. That match said everything. Ripley, now partnered with the woman the faction had tried to weaponize against her, beating Judgment Day with tag gold on the line. The people she once called family, on the losing end of a match she won with someone new. In 2026, Balor was kicked out of the group. The original architecture of the post-Ripley Judgment Day began collapsing from the inside. The same playbook used on her and Priest turned inward. The faction kept consuming itself, and Rhea Ripley, after IYO Sky defeated Raquel Rodriguez on Raw. Ripley helped Sky against a Judgment Day beatdown. She was still in that group's orbit, not as a member, but as the person standing across from them at every turn, delivering the kind of punishment she promised the night she put her title on that mat. Ripley continued to wage war with Judgment Day, and the tension kept escalating, stopping Perez and Rodriguez from beating down Sky, creating friction that spread wider than just her own feud. She was no longer just wrestling, she was actively dismantling. The statement she made in Toronto says it all, in her own words. Honestly, Judgment Day died when Damian and I got turned on. When we got kicked out, they died. They're not Judgment Day anymore, and I absolutely have no idea what the hell they're doing. That's not bitterness talking, that's clarity. The group that ran Raw for over 2 years, that held championships across every brand, that Ripley herself helped architect from the inside. She watched it lose its identity the moment it stopped being built around people who actually built it. What Rhea Ripley is now, Grand Slam champion, Women's Tag Team champion, Women's World Champion multiple times over. Someone who survived one of the most public betrayals in recent WWE history and came back more dangerous for it. That's the answer to every question the Judgment Day departure raised. She didn't need them. She proved it, repeatedly, every week that followed. And the faction that kicked her out, in her words, they died the moment she and Damian were turned on. They died when we got kicked out, they died. Mommy is still standing. The Judgment Day, as she knew it, is not.